is Brittany. So today is going to be a Back in Time Watches video, and today I'll be sharing with you the first time that I watched Titanic. So when I first saw Titanic, I was 13. I just saw it when it came out because it was released on December 19th, 1997. So I was 6 when it came out, but I did not see it then. I saw it until when I was a bit older, and I was 13. So I remember at that time, Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, they were still in business. So I remember, because the one closest to where I lived was Hollywood Video, so that's where I went. So I remember I saw the movie and I looked at it and I thought, okay, this looks good. And I thought, okay, I want to see this, And then I remember when me and my sister were renting the movie, it was 3 hours long, but I didn't mind. I thought, okay, the longer the better. But then, as it and how the movie was starting out and everything, like, yeah, so far it's starting out good. But then, yeah, I just remember really liking it, first time watching it. And then I think you say, I wasn't alone, but I know that there were other teenage girls who also had a crush on Leonardo DiCaprio, which, I did too. Yeah, I had a crush on him at the time. And so, yeah, I just remember, just enjoying the movie and like seeing where it took place and everything. Now, what I didn't know until after the movie is that that they used like the story that it took place in 1912 of the real events of Titanic. So that I didn't know until later, but just watching it, I was really drawn in, like, but the story, like this romance between Jack and Rose, and seeing everything unfolding and just seeing it the first time, I felt very moved by it, by this romance story between them, and I just felt touched, and I just felt like, like, wow, and yeah, so I just remember thinking, like, of course I was rooting for them, but then as it got to later in the movie, things starts to escalate. Things are getting now very intense. And so just when a certain part where all of a sudden now from that part to the ending, it was getting more intense. It was getting like that, just very intense, but also sad. I was feeling that, and pretty much during that part of the movie, I remember feeling very tense, but I also remember feeling anxious too, and I'm like, oh boy, like, I don't like this, I don't like what's going on. So yeah, I just remember just, kind of like being like this, like, oh no, like, what's going on, so to me it was just, like I said, it was very anxious. It was, but, and of course later when it got to the part, when it got to the end, it was getting very sad. And then, yeah, I just remember feeling where my stomach was hurting because I felt tense, but I felt very sad too. I'm like, oh, and so yeah, I just had a bad feeling. about it, and I thought, oh no, this isn't going to end well, and I kept thinking, no, like, this is your first time watching it, maybe everything will be okay. It's like, nope. Because when you have a bad or good feeling about something, they say to trust your instincts. So, same thing when you're watching a movie. If you have a bad feeling something's gonna happen, it probably will. Or if you have a good feeling something good's gonna happen, it probably will. So it's like, always trust your instincts no matter what. So yeah, I was getting that bad feeling while watching it, especially getting towards the ending, and I just remember, yeah, just feeling just very tense and just starting to feel very sad. And so, and I don't want to cry if I say it, but when it was getting later, towards the ending, when after the Titanic sank, that everyone is just like scared and panicking in the water, and by the time Jack finds Rose, that he there's this door, but then she gets on top of it, and as you can see that he was gonna get on top of it too, but I think he can see for himself that it wasn't gonna hold enough weight for her and him. So he did a noble thing by deciding to stay in the water, and I think he even thought to himself that he would want Rose to stay on there where she can stay alive as long as she can, and for him, and if it meant for him to stay in the water until he froze to death, that was something he was willing to do. So it's like, oh wow, And so what's really sad is that, just the whole thing, like everyone panicking, and there's no one nearby to help them, to save them, to get them into a lifeboat. It's so very sad to see. And what I think was also very sad and heartbreaking is when Jack tells Rose his last words to her, and then when he tells her how she's gonna live a long life, and she's gonna grow old, and she's gonna get married one day and have kids, and how one day she's gonna die an old lady, but then he tells her, which I thought was touching but also sad at the same time, because I think he wanted to tell her, knowing how much she meant to him, and that, because he says that winning the ticket was the best thing that happened to him because it brought him to her. That is very touching, but at the same time, sad at the same time. And I know he said that because he wanted her to know that if it wasn't for him to win that ticket, that they wouldn't have met, and because they wouldn't have met, they wouldn't have fallen in love either, and that he wanted her to know just how having her in his life for a short time, how much he meant to her, and knowing that even their love for each other meant a lot to him too, even just for a short amount of time. So it's like, oh gosh, I'm getting a little choked up here because of what he said to her. That's just so moving, but it's also heartbreaking because he wanted her to know that. I was like, oh gosh, but he also knows that he's not gonna make it. And then later, when later when there's a boat coming by and everything, and then when she tries to wake him up, she couldn't. And then she realizes that he had passed away. He had froze to death. And so, and then, but when she's saying come back, she meant the lifeboat. She meant for the lifeboat to come back. And then, but I think she realized what she knew what she had to do, and so she lets go, because his hand was, I think, on her hand, on her wrist, so she lifts up his hand off of her hand, and she lets him go. But even when he said for her to promise him that she'll never give up, and that she'll survive, and that she'll live her life to the fullest, and for her to make him that promise. So when she makes that promise, that's why she said, I'll never let go, I promise. Not saying I'll never let you go literally, because she can't carry, she can't have his dead body with her. She didn't mean that. She just meant, I'll never let go of the promise that I made to you. And so that's what she meant. So that's why she said, I'll never let go of the promise. But she also meant, I promise that I'll never let go. Well, you know what I mean? Like, she promises, like, well, like, she'll never let go. But I think, of course she meant she'll never let go, of the promise. And I think what she also probably meant was maybe she'll never let go of him in her heart, but she said, I promise. But yeah, she also meant she'll never let go of the promise she made to him. So that's what she meant. So as she did that, then she literally lets him go, and he sinks to the bottom. And honestly, I think every time I see that where she just lets him go and you see him sinking, like, I don't know, that's just so sad. That's just so heartbreaking to see, because no one wants to see that. No one wants to see a loved one of theirs, in that kind of situation, especially to see them sink like that in the water, like, oh, it's just so heartbreaking. Oh, that just gets to me. So when he tells her that, and then when she had to let him go, that just hits me hard, and it just makes me cry every time, really hard. I'm actually a bit teary-eyed just because of mentioning that, because I know the movie so well that it's like, it's in my head. I'm like, no, like, oh gosh, it's just so sad. But yeah, I remember first time watching it when I was 13, and to see that, I cried so hard. I did. I cried so hard that I couldn't stop. Yeah, I couldn't stop crying because it was just so sad. Which, it's making me sad right now just by thinking about it. Remembering the scene and just talking about it. It's like, oh gosh, I'm getting choked up here. Okay, I need a coffee or something. Hang on a bit. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I just had to, uh, like pull the blinds down a little bit just to get a little bit more light in here. So, yeah. Uh, whew. So anyway, yeah. So again, the first time watching Titanic, at 13, yeah, like I said, I I cried so hard, and honestly, I think, um, and to be honest though, I don't think there was a movie that I've watched where I've cried really hard at. I do think when I was little, of course, I did cry like when Littlefoot's mom died, but of course, even when I got a little bit older, like I didn't really cry, but um, it made me sad. I just somehow it didn't make me cry like it used to, and even like The Lion King too. I think when I was very very little, I think it used to make me cry, but I think at some point when I got a little bit older, like it still made me sad, but I just didn't cry like before. But I felt like with Titanic, I felt like this one was just very different, and I felt like this just made me feel so many emotions. I felt like it made me feel happy and moved and touched by the the romance story between Jack and Rose, and there are some things that made me feel you know it's kind of like when it seemed like everything was good. It's like, okay, everything's good for right now. But then, of course, when things were starting to get really intense, that's when I was starting to feel very tense and anxious and just like, oh gosh, I don't like this, I'm not liking this, and then starting to feel sad too. And then when it gets to the ending, to what he said to her, to her letting him go, that, like I said, again, it just made me cry so hard, and I just couldn't stop. And yeah, so I think that was like the first movie that I've seen that really probably made me cry like harder than the one before time, to be honest. But so even though how sad it was, and even though how tragic it was, because that's something that really happened, and even to see that on screen, but to have this love story that takes place during that time, of course, like I said, it was just very tragic, and I wish that was something that would have never happened, to be honest. So yeah, during the whole thing, it's like I felt bad even for everyone else, and for Jack and Rose too. So yeah, it's just, like I said, it made me cry, and but even though when it did make me cry, honestly, it turned out like, even when it was over, yeah. So even though when it was over, it's like it turned out to be my favorite epic romance disaster movie, and it still is. And I still love the movie. I love the romance between Jack and Rose, but of course, when it comes to what we get to see later on, which gets more intense and very scary, I every time that scene comes up, I still feel very tense and anxious, and I'm just like, where I just feel like my stomach is turning, because I just, hate seeing that, and I just feel so bad of what's going on, because knowing what happened at that time, so it really makes my stomach turn, and then knowing, you know, when Jack says his last words to Rose, and then when she lets him go, that, oh, like I said, the whole thing of that just makes me, like I said, tense and sad, but even that just makes me cry. And it still makes me cry very hard to this day. But it's like no matter how much it makes me cry, I still love the movie, the story, the characters, and the music, the song, and James Cameron, how he directed it. So yeah, and yeah, that was the first time that I watched it. But even after that, I continued to watch it, and I still continue to cry. Was to this day, and like I said, it became a favorite movie of mine, which it still is and always will be. And so yeah, I feel like it's just one of those movies where I feel like it just became a part. Um, well, I wouldn't really say my childhood because I was a teen, but it just, you know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those movies where I feel like I just love it. I just love everything about it. And so, um, yeah, and honestly, I don't care how many times it makes me cry, I will still watch it, and I'll say this, I think what really gets to me during that part before she lets him go is knowing how sad it is, but also like the music by James Horner. Like even with the music that you hear around that part, um, that that also gets to me. Even the music itself is so sad. Like it's this beautiful, very haunting, sad music. But even during that part where you hear it, that also hits me. And that makes me cry even hearing it and seeing how it just makes that part even much more sad. So like more heartbreaking. So it's like, but it's just, to me, it's just a masterpiece. It is. And it's just so well done. So yeah, that was the first time that I watched Titanic when I was 13. Yeah, and so I'm 31. So it's like it still makes me cry, and I'm actually gonna be watching it quite soon. Not too soon, but sometime next week. So yeah. Yeah, I'm also this is a back in time watches video on Titanic for its 25th anniversary. So, wow. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this, and for more movie content, movie reviews, movie discussions, reactions, and dreams on movies, subscribe, click on the bell so you'll be notified when I upload, and leave a comment down below if you're a fan of Titanic. And yeah, comment down below when was the first time that you've watched it. So that's all for today, and I'll see you at the movies.